Isaiah chapter 42, verse 21, "The Lord is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. He will magnify the law and make it honorable." But, number 2, God may refuse salvation to any sinner whatsoever without prejudice to the honor of any of his attributes. There is no person whatever in a natural condition upon whom God may not refuse to bestow salvation without prejudice to any part of his glory. Let a natural person be wise or unwise, of a good or ill natural temper, of mean or honorable parentage, whether born of wicked or godly parents, let him be a moral or immoral person, whatever good he may have done, however religious he has been, how many prayers soever he has made, and whatever pains he has taken that he may be saved, whatever concern and distress he may have for fear he shall be damned, or whatever circumstances he may be in, God can deny him salvation without the least disparagement to any of his perfections. His glory will not, in any instance, be the least obscured by it. 1. God may deny salvation to any natural person without any injury to the honor of his righteousness. If he does so, there is no injustice nor unfairness in it. There is no natural man living, let his case be what it will, but God may deny him salvation and cast him down to hell, and yet not be chargeable with the least unrighteous or unfair dealing in any respect whatsoever. This is evident because they all have deserved hell, and it is no injustice for a proper judge to inflict on any man what he deserves. And as he has deserved condemnation, so he has never done anything to remove the liability or to atone for the sin. He never has done anything whereby he has laid any obligations on God not to punish him as he deserved. 2. God may deny salvation to any unconverted person whatever without any prejudice to the honor of his goodness. Sinners are sometimes ready to flatter themselves that, though it may not be contrary to the justice of God to condemn them, yet it will not consist with the glory of his mercy. They think it will be dishonorable to God's mercy to cast them into hell and have no pity or compassion upon them. They think it will be very hard and severe and not becoming a God of infinite grace and tender compassion. But God can deny salvation to any natural person without any disparagement to his mercy and goodness. That which is not contrary to God's justice is not contrary to his mercy. If damnation be justice, then mercy may choose its own object. They mistake the nature of the mercy of God, who think that it is an attribute which, in some cases, is contrary to justice. Nay, God's mercy is illustrated by it, as in the 23rd verse of the context, that he might make known the riches of his glory on the vessels of mercy, which he had afore prepared unto glory. 3. It is in no way prejudicial to the honor of God's faithfulness, for God has in no way obliged himself to any natural man by his word to bestow salvation upon him. Men in a natural condition are not the children of promise, but lie open to the curse of the law, which would not be the case if they had any promise to lay hold of. 3. God does actually exercise his sovereignty in men's salvation. We shall show how he exercises this right in several particulars. 1. In calling one people or nation, and giving them the means of grace, and leaving others without them. According to the divine appointment, salvation is bestowed in connection with the means of grace. God may sometimes make use of very unlikely means, and bestow salvation on men who are under very great disadvantages. But he does not bestow grace wholly without any means. But God exercises his sovereignty in bestowing those means. All mankind are by nature in like circumstances towards God, Yet God greatly distinguishes some from others by the means and advantages which He bestows upon them. The savages who live in the remote parts of this continent and are under the grossest heathenish darkness, as well as the inhabitants of Africa, are naturally in exactly similar circumstances toward God with us in this land. They are no more alienated or estranged from God in their natures than we, and God has no more to charge them with. And yet, what a vast difference has God made between us and them! In this He has exercised His sovereignty. He did this of old, when He chose but one people to make them His covenant people, and to give them the means of grace, and left all others, and gave them over to heathenish darkness and the tyranny of the devil, to perish from generation to generation for many hundreds of years. The earth in that time was peopled with many great and mighty nations. There were the Egyptians, a people famed for their wisdom. There were also the Assyrians and the Chaldeans, who were great and wise and powerful nations. There were the Persians, who by their strength and policy subdued a great part of the world. There were the renowned nations of the Greeks and Romans, who were famed over the whole world for their excellent civil governments, for their wisdom and skill in the arts of peace and war, and who by their military prowess in their turn subdued and reigned over the world. Those were rejected. God did not choose them for His people, but left them for many ages under gross heathenish darkness, to perish for lack of vision, and chose one only people, the posterity of Jacob, to be His own people, and to give them the means of grace. Psalm 147, verses 19 and 20. He showeth His word unto Jacob, His statutes and His judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation, and as for His judgments, they have not known them. This nation were a small, inconsiderable people in comparison with many other people. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 7. The Lord did not set His love upon you, nor choose you, because ye were more in number than any people, for ye were the fewest of all people. So neither was it for their righteousness, for they had no more of that than other people. Deuteronomy chapter 9, verse 6. Understand, therefore, that the Lord thy God giveth thee not this good land to possess it for thy righteousness, for thou art a stiff-necked people. God gives them to understand that it was from no other cause but His free electing love that He chose them to be His people. That reason is given why God loved them. It was because He loved them. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 8, which is as much as to say, it was agreeable to His sovereign pleasure to set His love upon you. God also showed His sovereignty in choosing that people, when other nations were rejected, who came of the same progenitors. Thus the children of Isaac were chosen, when the posterity of Ishmael and other sons of Abraham were rejected. So the children of Jacob were chosen, when the posterity of Esau were rejected. As the apostle observes in the 7th verse, neither because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children, but in Isaac shall thy seed be called. And again in verses 10, 11, 12, and 13. And not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived by one, even by our father Isaac, the children moreover, being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the promise of God according to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth, it was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. The apostle has not respect merely to the election of the persons of Isaac and Jacob before Ishmael and Esau, but of their posterity. In the passage already quoted from Malachi, God has respect to the nations, which were the posterity of Esau and Jacob. Malachi chapter 1, verses 2 and 3. I have loved you, saith the Lord. Yet ye say, Wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? Saith the Lord. Yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness.